Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we have another devblog for the updates Winged Lions, and a lot of people keep asking me when I think Winged Lions will come out. I'm pretty sure it'll come out this week at some point. It'll definitely be out before the challenge event, because normally having an update on the day that an event starts is a really bad idea, and has been proven many times in the past to be a terrible idea, so hopefully those experiences have been learned from. Today the devblog is about the Vautour IIA and also the Vautour IIN. These are vehicles which are changing for France and also Israel, so it's kind of a double whammy in this way. The Vautours are going to have a decent place in the Israeli tech tree and of course already find their home in the French tech tree. Not the best vehicles in the world, and also suffer from some changing tides when it comes to the general jet area. Let's get into the Vautour IIA. The Vautours are getting a bunch of changes when it comes to War Thunder, but their general playstyle won't really change too much, which is a bit sad because their general playstyle isn't very fun to play, and they have very limited use when it comes to War Thunder itself. The first thing to understand is the Vautour IIA IDF is being removed from the French tech tree. Now this means that if you already own it, then you get to keep it, so understand that. It will stay in the French tech tree for you, but if you don't own it, it's going to be hidden forever and you won't be able to purchase it. And if you want it in the future, it's not going to be able to be there. So if you want to have this vehicle, even though it isn't a very good vehicle, then this would be the time to purchase it if you want to. If you ask for my recommendation for the vehicle, don't bother. It is not very good. If you want it for the novelty factor, fair enough, go ahead. But apart from that, it's not very useful. When it comes to the Israeli Air Force, they will get a variant of the Vautour IIA in the tech tree, and what it'll have is Shafir air-to-air missiles. These are AIM-9B equivalents for Israel, so it'll be very similar to the premium one that France has right now, which is being taken away. The major difference is the bombs that it gets access to. It gets 250, 360, and 500 kilo bombs, and the other thing is it can actually mix and match, so you can bring bombs along with the missiles if you want to. Now, the Vautour is an absolutely terrible fighter, and even with the missiles, it is still really, really bad. The reason is the vehicle itself is incredibly unmaneuverable. It doesn't move around the sky very well. It's more like a terrible bucket. So trying to be aggressive with it when it comes to it being, on the attack against other machines, you got to realize there's a lot of maneuverable fighters around those BRs, and if all you have is basically AIM-9Bs, you're not going to do too much against them. It also has, the 30mm, which are quite nice, but at speeds, which this thing has to stay at to stay alive, it does not have access to very good maneuverability. So you end up just being a fast blob, and the problem is nowadays in War Thunder, there are faster blobs than you, so you just die. And that is the problem with the Vautour IIA, or just the Vautour II in general. It's a vehicle which just compresses hard at high speeds, and things go faster than it now at its general BRs. Generally the Su-7s and also things like the Q-5s can just run it down and annihilate it. And anything with a missile makes it very, very annoying to fly the Vautour. At least the IIA in the Israeli tech tree is better than the one which is in the French tech tree. It might have slightly less bomb load, but it can also carry the missiles alongside with the bombs, so at least you have a little bit of variability on what you want to do with it. So that's kind of nice. I just don't think it's going to be a groundbreaker, because I've spaded the Vautours and I know how they feel, and they feel awful. The other thing is, These vehicles will probably be missing stuff like bomb CCIP or anything like that, so you'll have to guesstimate where to drop the bombs, which isn't too bad, because, you know, you get used to being able to, you know where to drop the bombs or the arc and stuff, but it's just a little bit of extra knowledge that's needed instead of the plane being simple, whereas there's a lot of vehicles around the BR of the Vautour which have either CCIP or CCRP in some form or another, which makes them easier to use. They're also adding the Vautour IIN. Now, this will actually replace the French premium Vautour IIA, the Israeli one that is in the French tag tree. It's coming in, and it has some better qualities, I suppose, than the standard Vautour IIA IDF. It's a two-seater. It also has access to a radar, which is at least a little bit useful. And at the same time, the weaponry that it gets access to is AA-20 Nords, so you can have a bit of fun with them in head-ons and general use. They're pretty fun to use. It also has AS Nords, so you can use them in ground combat, which is quite nice. And then also the AS-30 Nord, which, if you haven't used, is a fantastic missile. I've used it on the Étendard after spading it and bringing it into ground forces. It's really fun to use. It's got a 115 kilogram TNT equivalent warhead, which is insanely fun. You basically just point it at a target, you fire, and huge explosions. Everybody claps. It's wonderful, and it's really, really good to use. You can bring two of them, which means that you can get 2 guaranteed kills if you line it up properly. But remember, this thing at high speeds doesn't pull up too well. So you might have syndromes where you can't pull up and you've just, thrown the Nords out. So make sure that you're not going to hit the ground from those situations. You can also, you have 30mm defers, so that's pretty good. This variant is much more of like an interceptor variant. Is probably a better way to put it. It's one where you're supposed to go after planes and stuff. You can still do all of the other things with this variant, but it's not very strong at doing those. You have access to the radar, but you're not going to have access to the bomb site probably. And also at the same time, you have a lot of funky weapons on the machine, which is great, but unless they change the FM of the Vautours, you're still going to have all the issues of the other Vautours, which is it doesn't like turning, it doesn't go fast enough anymore, and also at the same time it's huge, so it's really easy to hit. And also missiles are very good against it because of the previous mentioned thoughts. So yeah, pretty much as simple as that. The Vautour IIN as well isn't just going to be added to the premium side for the French. It's also going to be added to the Israeli Air Force as well. This is actually going to be a researchable aircraft. So if you are interested in playing the IIN and not buying it in the French tree, you can play it in the Israeli tree. Which I think is pretty cool. Also, there is no advanced French guided weapons for the Israeli one, but instead you get a ton of unguided stuff, and you can get bombs up to a total weight of 3,600 kilos, which is pretty nice, and also you can get SNEB Type 23 rockets and the more powerful T-10 140s. So that's pretty useful, and at the same time, the IIN also gets the Shafrias that we talked about before, the air-to-air missiles, which are equivalent to AIM-9Bs. So, you can play the interceptor role if you want. It's just really, really bad at it. But you can try and do it. So there you go. Good stuff. Thumbs up. There's a lot of vehicles in the Israeli tech tree coming in, which are very much designed either as grinding vehicles and aerialistic, or as pseudo ground attackers in ground realistic. All the A4s coming in should be really, really good at that. The Vautours kind of like that, and a few other planes as well. Whereas there isn't too many what I would class as out-and-out fighters in the tech tree. There is still, as I said, a ton of vehicles which, will be quite easy to passively grind. And the Vautours are like that. They're not fun to play. They are not entertaining vehicles in the slightest, but they are very easy to play. It's not down to your own actions whether you win or not, it's unfortunately down to the enemy's actions whether you win or not, and it's very hard to control the battlefield in something like a Vautour. So it's lovely to see all of these new ones, but it doesn't solve any of the issues of the Vautour. Which is a bit of a shame. Maybe at some point we'll get a Vautour which makes more sense as a general plane, but I don't think that exists, because there isn't any with countermeasures, and there isn't any which fix the flight performance of it, and there isn't any which offer it CCIP. So, who knows? Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.